It's the Draft Fellows coming at you live. Kyle and Andrew breaking down the drive. Prospects to roster, we got the flow. First round picks to the ones you don't know. Talk about the combine, skills on display. Who's rising up and who's falling away. Roster building like a GM in the zone. Kyle, Fellows, Andrew Mertig, they own the phone.
Hey, welcome back to the Draft Fellows podcast. I'm Andrew Mertig. That is Kyle Fellows. I always go the wrong way on that. Together, we are the Draft Fellows. Make sure to check out our channel on YouTube, or, of course, the audio version is available on your favorite podcasting platform. We are back to talk a little bit about week 3, maybe a little bit about week 4. But we had a happy coincidence as we both logged on to start recording. We are both wearing brand new shirts from Homage. I'm gonna say it correctly, even though my temptation is to pronounce H's where they exist. So yeah, we both got new fits. I'm wearing the Brewer shirt. If you're not watching on YouTube, to represent the impending playoff run. Kyle's got that very sweet Packers shirt. And like, not only are they cool, which is fine, like that's important, but like literally the most comfortable shirts out there, period.
So soft. They're so nice.
It's ridiculous. And like, you wash them and they get more soft. Anyways, this sounds like an advertisement. And I know I put them on the bottom. Like, they're not paying us to say this. I like, it's a brand I believe in. So if you want to check it out, it's homage.com. They have like every major sports league. They have a bunch of other really cool stuff too. I get all of my like Bucks, Brewers, Badgers, Packers stuff to wear in California. And people are always like, that shirt is awesome. Where'd you get it? Because I love the like throwbacky kind of things. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
really cool.
I love them as well. You made it sound fancy. Say it again.
Homage.
I'm like real basic, and I'm like homage. So like we need people to weigh in and tell us how this is actually said, because we both love the brand. As Andrew said, like this one is brand new, but I'm so excited because I have shirts from them that are not brand new, and they have been in my collection, my wardrobe, for like 2 years, and they're still like my favorite shirts. So knowing that this will be one of those shirts is super exciting. So go check out Homage or homage.com and get you some for yourself. You'll love it.
I was just laughing because the first time that we brought them up on air, I said homage, and you gave me a very hard time. So I was
maybe it is homage. I don't know.
I don't know. Enunciation aside,
not our strength.
Yeah, go check it out. But today we will do what we plan to do for most of the regular season this year. We're going to talk about how 2024 rookies did this week, because that is obviously a huge part of what our evaluation was all of last offseason. And we're going to highlight some 2025 NFL draft prospects. So a little bit of a look behind, a little bit of a look ahead. And I'm going to kick things off. So last week I talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. Easy transition, another wide receiver. This is my third straight time leading the show off with a wide receiver, by the way. And we're going to go with Malik Nabers from the New York Giants, who, as we are recording, is having yet another great game.
Yes.
So just keep adding those stats up. He is on pace, I believe, to break the target and reception record for rookies, and is doing some just unbelievable things. Yeah. And we thought Puka Nacua would have that all of the rookie records for a long time. Yep. Malik Nabers definitely on pace to shatter those. But last week, week 3, he had 8 catches on 12 targets. That's a really good catch to target ratio. 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. He looks like the only option on the team, so it's even more impressive what he's doing, because he's getting most of the focus from the defense.
Yeah.
Corners look lost trying to cover him. His quickness is just uncoverable. I can't believe it. Like, we saw this, and like, there were things that I expected. I expected him to be really good. I thought that, like, yeah, he was a little overshadowed by Marvin Harrison Jr., but like, this is an elite level wide receiver prospect. He was the 4th highest graded wide receiver that I have since 2020. So the players that are ahead of him: Marvin Harrison Jr., Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, end of list.
Wow.
So like, great company to be in. He has come in like Jamar Chase did Maybe not even CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, his rookie year was good, but not great.
Right.
Nabers has just leapt into this like star wide receiver category immediately. What's even more impressive is he is working all over the field. He has one target deep outside, one target intermediate outside, 3 targets intermediate middle, 3 targets short middle, 2 targets short outside, right? Like that's his week 3 output everywhere across the field. Deep, short, middle. He's working the middle of the field. He's working the outsides. He's getting screens. He's getting gadgety plays. Like this guy can do it all. They're putting so much on his shoulders, and to this point, he has handled it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the interesting things with Nabers is just like this is a player that we saw coming in. Marvin Harrison, he said, overshadowed the player. This is a player who can change an offense. And I think that that's maybe something that we kind of undersold a little bit throughout the draft process. Like Daniel Jones has his struggles. To Daniel Jones' credit, it looks like Jones is playing a little bit better. We don't know how much of that is a little bit of a step from Daniel Jones, or if just Malik Nabers being involved in this thing is making things go that much better. But at the same time, you give a quarterback a weapon like Malik Nabers, like it's both and, right? And I just think it's to Nabers' credit that he can step in, and he hasn't made the Giants juggernauts by any means, but like the offense looks so much more competent, and there's so much more you have to account for because he's on the field. And it's just been a lot of fun to watch another rookie not take 3 years to acclimate, but come in and really dominate right away in the NFL. So I want to talk about another player who stepped in and playing really well right now. This is Jayden Daniels, the quarterback of the Washington Commanders. This is not at all a victory lap for me. I had Daniels as my QB3, and as much as I like what he did on the field, I liked his film, I was really concerned about the durability. And a lot of people can be like, everybody was upset about the durability. Like, I think there's still some legitimate things there to be concerned about because he hasn't learned how to protect himself and preserve his body fully yet. I think he can do that, and that's on the way. But I continue to be concerned about that, the longevity of that play style. But my goodness, Daniels has done some really good things throughout the first couple of weeks of the season. This past weekend in particular, he was 21 of 23 this last weekend. Like, I checked that stat because I was like, that's too good. There's no way that he was actually 21 of 23. That's an incredible attempts to completions ratio there for 250 yards, 2 touchdowns passing. He added another score on the ground, was incredibly efficient. And his connection with Terry McLaurin was really, really fun to watch just from a fan perspective. Like, I think Terry McLaurin is one of the easier players to root for in the NFL and has had a kind of a long path of finding a quarterback to play with. It feels like the Commanders found a quarterback for him. It feels like they found their quarterback of the future in this guy, Daniels. And it's just week 3 of the NFL, but in his rookie season, it feels like Jayden Daniels is the real thing.
Yeah, and I believe the stat that was floating around is he was the first quarterback in NFL history to have back-to-back games where his offense didn't punt or have a turnover.
That's nuts. I hadn't seen that. That's nuts.
Yeah, it just absolutely incredible. And so for Daniels, like, he's everything I could have possibly imagined and so much more.
So much more.
It's really early, right? Like, obviously, Daniels right now, the very early favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year in the NFL. Lot of season to go, a lot of different challenges that he'll face. But, it was nice. Like, this isn't in the stat line, but I saw him slide once.
Yes. Yes. It's the beginning.
You saw Dan Quinn kind of sarcastically clapping when it happened, but like, if this guy could protect himself, the sky's the limit. Like, he started to develop as a passer last year at LSU in ways that I never would have expected. And obviously he's a game-changing kind of athlete. So, we're talking about a Lamar Jackson kind of ceiling, and he's already showing those flashes. That's really, really promising. He's got to take care of himself. He's got to ride the roller coaster of a rookie season. but so far so good. Looking like an absolute star out there. I'm going to talk a little bit homer pick for me because loved him at Wisconsin. That is running back Braelon Allen in the New York Jets. So he ended week 3 with 11 attempts for 55 yards. I like when players do that. They make it nice and even, 5 yards a rush. And then in week 2, he had 7 attempts for 33 yards. So that's just below 5 yards a rush. And also a touchdown in week 2. So he's not going to carry the load as long as Breece Hall is in the picture. And that's fine. But that makes what he is doing even more impressive to me. Yeah. He looks as bursty as he has since probably his freshman year at Wisconsin. I think we didn't always see that explosiveness in those last 2 years. He's got great vision and patience, but he can take on a linebacker in the hole. If he gets in the secondary, like watch out safeties, that is a player who is bigger than you. Yeah. And he's still just 20 years old. One of my favorite things ever is remembering back to when he was starting as a true freshman at Wisconsin, looking bigger than anyone else. Like Braelon Allen was as big as a college freshman as he is now. And he was 17 for the entirety, the whole freshman season. This guy is an absolute freak show. I had him ranked as RB5 in this class, and he was my 103rd overall prospect. He ends up sliding all the way to running back 11. He goes at 134, like a full round after I thought he should have. Here's a list of the running backs who got drafted before Braelon Allen. Jonathan Brooks, we don't know, incomplete, right? Trey Benson has looked promising, not going to get a full load this year with the Cardinals. Blake Corum, kind of slow start. Marshawn Lloyd, obviously injury problems. Jalen Wright has been a healthy scratch, had some injury problems. Bucky Irvin looks awesome, so good job there, Tampa. Will Shipley hasn't really seen much work in Philly. Ray Davis has been kind of a solid backup. Isaac Guerendo is the backup to the backup, so maybe we'll see. Yeah. He keeps kind of folding in even more. The funny thing about that is Guerendo couldn't see the field at Wisconsin because of Braelon Allen and then transferred to Louisville. Guerendo somehow gets drafted before him. And then Seyon Vaki, the safety / running back, the Lions took him before Braelon Allen. So, like, a lot of people on that list, I think there's some teams across the league that might be looking at Braelon Allen with a little bit of buyer's remorse.
Yeah, I don't want to look at my list because I'm afraid of how I had this stacked. So I'm not going to, but I know I did not have Isaac Guerendo and Seyon Vaki ahead of Mr. Braelon Allen. So those two are just a little bit hard to justify for sure. My next guy here is Cooper Beebe, the interior offensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys. Played primarily guard in college at Kansas State, but came in and won the center job for Dallas, and he's been very solid for them to start the season. He's been less consistent in the run game, but as a pass protector, he's currently Pro Football Focus's 7th graded pass blocker among centers. He was kind of pigeonholed as kind of this high effort, high IQ, maybe kind of like, I don't know, quarterback of the offensive line kind of guy, but maybe not an elite athlete, like early in the pre-draft process. But then kind of, I think, surprised a lot of people with his athleticism and a 9+ RAS in his testing. And it looks like all of that is kind of coming together and translating to the NFL really, really early on. He's off to a great start. I mean, talking offensive linemen isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but it's really fun when these guys come into the league and they pave the road for the players around them to have a lot of success. And it feels like the Cowboys definitely found a winner here, and that he has kind of found a home at center maybe for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, Beebe is one of those really interesting prospects. We see this sometimes where, like, coming into the 2023 college football season, Beebe was considered like one of the best interior offensive line prospects out of the entire class, right? By the people who are established enough that they're scouting that early, right? Before players are eligible or before they declare. So I had really high expectations. And so it kind of seemed like all of this shine fizzled during the season. By the time I got around to scouting him, people were definitely not as high on him as they were really early in the process. And then it just seemed like, well, he tested way better. What did we miss on film? But he still didn't get picked, particularly high. And so I think the fact that he is shining, I think gives a lot of hope to those prospects that maybe don't do as well in their final season as what they're hoping, or don't get the kind of publicity that we would be expecting. So yeah, really, really nice, to see. The Cowboys offensive line seems to be performing a little bit better against the Giants as we're going. So Beebe is certainly going to be a big part of their operation if they're going to turn things around. And hey, I mean, he could be blocking for Braelon Allen right now, but the Cowboys decided they didn't need a running back. So
it's true. Job, we are still trying to figure out what the Cowboys' plan is at running back. They are still trying to figure out what their plan was. Should we flip over and talk about the 2025 class? Because obviously we have NFL going on. We have the college scene as well. And it's really fun just to kind of look ahead. And I know you got to dive into a player this week that I'm familiar with and I appreciate on Saturdays, but haven't dug into him as an NFL prospect, with a fine tooth comb. And so I'm excited to hear you talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, so Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan, is going to be my spotlight for this week. And I knew Will Johnson was great. I read about him from other folks and wanted to just get a feel for is this a truly elite kind of corner, or is this somebody who just has a lot of buzz because of this particular corner class, or because he happened to play for the national champions last year? Yeah. Well, I'm here to tell you the buzz is very, very real. I think he is the perfect cornerback build. He's listed at 6'2", 202. And on top of it, he's not just a big clunky corner. He combines that with elite athletic traits, not just talking straight line speed. And he is a blazer there, but he has fluid hips. He mirrors exceptionally well. He's strong for a college cornerback. I think there's a little bit of refinement that he should dominate people physically in college, and he doesn't quite yet. He needs a little bit better work on his hand placement on jams. But he's a player that could simply just get away with being a freak athlete, but his coverage abilities are actually really refined. He mirrors well in man. He sees and processes in zone like a guy who maybe doesn't have as good of athletic tools. He works at his craft, which it's easy to get lazy and just be like a super athlete when you can. But those kind of things are going to really help him when he transitions to the next level. He has really nice hands. He's always a threat to take it to the house. He's so good in zone. You can't throw over him because he anticipates well. And once he decides to click and close, he often makes plays on the ball. In man, he shadows super well, but doesn't always get his head turned back around. That's something that does need to get fixed. Because it can lead to grabbiness at the next level, or receivers going up and catching it around your body. I think once he gets that cleaned up, there's not much else that I'm going to be able to criticize him about. Yeah. For a bigger corner, he does have some missed tackles from time to time. That seems like a fundamental problem, not a willingness problem. So that's where I get concerned with corners. Yeah. Are they willing to stick their head in there? Cool. We can teach them how to wrap up later. Mm-hmm. But this, having that skill is a huge, huge, huge deal. Now, I adjust my ratings as the season goes. I give them an initial grade right now, and then I'm going to figure it out at the end how much I need to adjust. Some players, I see them again, and I'm like, ooh, they need to go up. They need to go down in certain categories. Right now, today, he's the highest graded corner that I have done.
Period. Oh, wow. Wow.
So, I've been doing this officially in my grading scale since 2020. I mentioned that before with Nabers. Haven't had a corner yet that reaches these standards. I floated out on Twitter when I watched him. I was like, I think this is the best corner I've seen since Patrick Peterson. And I wasn't scouting hardcore when Patrick Peterson came out, but I remember what he was like in college and what he was like as a draft prospect. And there were even some people that were like, you might need to go back farther. Wow. Is this a Charles Woodson, Patrick Peterson kind of corner? I think right now, today, I would say yes.
Wow. Yeah, it takes a special breed of corner to be that, we've seen him pressed up, but to be a top 5 selection as a corner, it takes a special kind, and it feels like there's been buzz. Of course, I am a Michigan fan, and so there's the Homer fan. You hear the buzz that this guy's really, really good. but it's fun to hear it from someone outside of that fandom that appreciates that this is a really, really technically sound player who is incredibly talented. So it's going to be fun to see his progress throughout the season as he has a chance to grow and then get into the draft process next year. The guy I want to turn to here is an interesting guy. This is hybrid player, two-way player, Travis Hunter, the wide receiver corner from Colorado. An impressive athlete who just impacts the entire game. And he's so fascinating because I think a lot of people just are trying to figure out, like, we want to just kind of slow down and appreciate the player that he is for the college game, but we can't help kind of as like draft people, like, okay, so what's he going to be next? Like, what's he going to be long term and those kinds of things, right? But this is a 6'1", 185 pound impact player who plays both ways. It'll just be fascinating to see what happens throughout his process. Where does he play in the NFL? Will he be willing to accept that he probably has to pick a side of the ball? Like, I'm sure there's some creative offenses or defenses. A lot of people think he's going to end up being that it would be better for him to maybe play the defensive side of the ball in the NFL. But what will NFL teams allow him to do? What will he accept as his like fate in that decision? But this is a player that just last week, 130 yards on 7 catches versus Baylor, also had the game-clinching forced fumble. So it just doesn't seem to matter like where you line him up, where you put him into the game. He was a player I was kind of skeptical of going into because everyone's like, he's amazing. Like he impacts the game in so many different ways. I'm like, okay, like nobody can do that consistently. He's just probably an elite athlete in college, and that would never translate. When you watch him play, you kind of wonder, like, could he? Like, I don't think anybody can withstand that kind of like that many snaps in the NFL. And he talks about what he does right now to keep his body fresh enough to do that every week. But he's talented enough to do it. So I'm excited to watch him throughout the process as he kind of develops his profile and to see where he takes his career. So it's going to be really, really fun.
Yeah, Travis Hunter's grade for me right now is not far behind Will Johnson. I currently have him graded as a corner just because I wasn't sure what to do with him.
Yeah.
I know that when you talk to Ian Cummings, he said, I think he's probably best suited for wide receiver.
Really? Yeah.
I think that's fine. That's a perfectly fine take. His skills at wide receiver actually seem to jump out a little bit more. To me, it's like, okay, well, there's less truly elite corners in this league than there are wide receivers. So maybe that makes an impact. I think he will play both ways to a point. Like, I think if he's a full-time corner, then you're going to have a couple of packages where you're going to get him into the game. You're probably going to have him involved in the return game in some capacity as well. You can't, I just can't envision that there is a human being on this earth who can withstand the punishment that you take on both sides of the ball for an entire game. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
No.
And so that's where that's sort of the thought process of like, okay, well, if he's like a receiver, how do you get a corner in on certain packages? Like, that's something that we just don't see.
Yeah.
Whereas we do see it the other way. We saw Dion do that as a pro. We saw Woodson do it once in a while. And we see some gadgety kind of stuff for certain defenders around the league. But this is a unicorn athlete. There are some things I saw on tape that I'm like, he could improve here.
Right.
I think the Dion influence, I'm way less concerned about Travis Hunter than I am Shadur. We'll talk about that maybe on a future episode.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But what a player, what an athlete. Like, this is a guy who probably deserves to win the Heisman this year. Like, if he continues on the path, like, nobody is as valuable to their team as Travis Hunter is. So absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, super interesting. Just, I can't imagine, like, in the NFL, running full speed on offense and then like you score and then they're like, you got to go out there and play defensive back now.
Try to tackle Malik Nabers.
Right, go cover Jameson Williams after like burning a DB. Like it sounds like an incredibly impossible task. Maybe if he was a slot defender and like you said, you could put him in like in those packages. But at 6'1", 185, I feel like it's probably more likely
Yeah, maybe perimeter. The team has a perimeter corner that they can slide inside, and then you're like, okay, well, Travis is going to play like third downs only.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
It's going to be a nightmare for fantasy football if he gets like, is this guy going to be someone you can trust to put up points? But anyway, lots of speculation. We love it all. And we're just, we're just at the tip of the iceberg getting into what is the 2025 class. So stick with us. Thanks for joining us on the episode today. Make sure you do like and subscribe to the show. From the draft room to the gridiron, the Draft Fellows have got you covered. Until next time, stay tuned and stay in the game.
Kyle got the insight, Andrew brings the heat. Breaking down the roster every single week. Catch us on the podcast, we coming through your speakers. Top picks for practice squad, we got the seekers. Team dynamics, contracts, and the trades. From the draft day excitement to the accolades. Draft fellows on the track, we gone strong. Analyze the plays, we can't be wrong. From the 40-yard dash to the longest throw. We talking pro ball, yeah, you know.